I want to talk today about collaboration in general and culture on projects in general. And so I just want to start with a little bit about the UW. Obviously, people have heard of the UW, but just for context, we have about 20 million square feet of space. We've got 3 campuses. We do projects on all of them. We have field stations. We have an ocean-going vessel. We do work on the ocean floor. So, you name it, we're doing some kind of project about it. And at any given point, we've got about $1.25 billion worth of work underway at some point, planning, design, construction, closeout. So a lot of work there. Briefly about me, and this will tell you something about where I'm going to go with this, I think with my background. So I have a degree in psychology. I went to architecture school, or master's program at the UW. I practiced architecture for 14 years at a firm. I managed projects for a private biotech company for 2 years. I've worked for a general contractor for 2 years. And I've been at the UW now for about 11. So I think that background has really informed how I look at projects and how they can and should be done and how they often are not. So I want to start with a question. You can answer if you like. And that is, what do you think of when you think of a project that was great? 10 years from now when you're thinking about projects that you've done, what is going to make you think like that was a great project? And it might be it was really interesting. It was technically challenging. We made money on it. That's all true. For me, the thing that I always remember are the people that I worked on the project with. See a lot of nodding. I think that's true for a lot of us. And working together collaboratively not only is more enjoyable and more memorable, I hold that it creates a higher performing project team. And that's really where I'm going and trying to have us go on major projects at the UW. So that's what I want to talk about today. So a little history, again, for us. We, as a public entity, we have to deliver projects according to the public works laws, right, and RCW 3910 and all that. We can only do what it says we can do. So that's a constraint and maybe an opportunity as well. But what we've tried to do in general in recent years is integrate the project teams, the design and the construction as much as we can. So it's integrated project delivery-ish. I think as many people are familiar with that term. And we've tried to do that to get inefficiency out of the process. So 2010, my predecessor, Eric Smith, decided, we're pretty good at what we do. We're not great at what we do. And he wanted to make a project that we had up at UW Bothell, kind of a pilot for doing something different. So we had different solicitation language for both the architect and the general contractor, the GCCM, that talked about project partners, talked about the use of the building information model, talked about collaboration. It was all aspirational. It was not, it kind of painted a picture of what we were after for the teams that we wanted to work with. And we got Lee Scretcher Lewis, Hacker, were the architects, Hermanson and Nelson, the mechanical, electrical. And, that team just embraced that charge that we gave them and hit that project out of the park. And it was, 19 trades modeled their work on this project. That collaboration platform, I guess, or the model was the collaboration platform for that team. And again, they and we didn't invent any of this, right? But that's the first time we really had real exposure to that way of working on one of our projects. We tried to track the investment in that modeling and the collaboration and how it paid off in reduced change orders, speed, et cetera. So the metrics were just out of the park, client happy, campus transformed, and so as you can imagine, that result was greeted largely with skepticism. Actually, you can't imagine that. I was surprised that we were seen as kind of the kumbaya project, that we were not rigorous. We were paying the contractor to do things they should do anyway. And, it was a little, there's institutional inertia, I guess I'll say, that has to be overcome for someone like us. So, we'll try again. This is a project with Mortensen and Miller Hull, a partial renovation of the Odegaard Library. Similar language to solicit the team. And, this is a project that this building is 10,000 visitors a day. This project had to happen with the library occupied, except for a 3-month closure. So, the kind of demo you see in the lower left. The key thing here is, again, that team completely collaborated. Miller Hull let Mortensen plan the design schedule. They designed this project completely out of the sequence that they would normally work. We could not have done it, and Miller Hull would be the first to say, without that kind of collaboration. So I start to think, we're onto something here, and the honest truth is we are, but we have not found the secret sauce that we can just sprinkle on every project and they all work like that. And so what I've learned is that the collaboration is something that really needs to be managed and led. And how many of you have read the book, The Boys in the Boat? So so this is about the Husky crew team in 1936, and they talk about crews having what they call swing, if you're familiar with that term. So that is when the boat is just rowing completely in unison, and it's an extra gear that the boat has. And I felt like both of these projects were in that state of swing a fair amount. And when they lost it, they got it back, sometimes through some hard conversations. But a lot of our projects do not have that, and they're still being done in what I'll say is the old way. So the psych major in me says, why is that? Why are people not working in this collaborative way? And I think with a lot of these big questions, the answer, of course, lies with Ichiro. And what I mean by that is the author Malcolm Gladwell has something in his books about taking 10,000 hours or 10,000 repetitions to achieve mastery. And Ichiro, you can see his swing at age 24 on the upper right is the same as it was, or as it is at 42 on the lower right. And that's through muscle memory, that's through repetition. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of us in the design and construction profession have a lot of muscle memory about not collaborating. We've become very good at not collaborating, and we have to overcome that. And Ichiro, for example, I read, they had a rain out. He's on a last place team. He takes a bat to the hotel to work on his swing. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame someday. He's not going anywhere in the playoffs, and he's still working on his swing. And I think that's what we need to do right now as an industry. We're the 42-year-old future Hall of Famer. We got to go back and work on our swing at the hotel. Because what we're doing now is not going to keep working. And that's where I want to go with our project. So when we get the right kind of muscle memory among the people, I think you get the right kind of culture on our projects. And the kind of culture we want to have is one that has high accountability, decisions are made and stuck to, the hard conversations, it's not just okay to have it, but you have to have them. It's okay to confront somebody who is not performing well, and that's not personal. That's just the way the team has to operate. And just as important as it is to do those things, not doing those things undermines a project culture, a positive project culture. So when people are not candid, when there's blaming, you keep it to yourself. When people are not held accountable, et cetera, the project culture kind of goes down the drain. So I see that, and I think that, this is not unlike marriage. We all, maybe not all, many of us experience marriage, and I think you have to have those conversations. But I think the main thing is we're not trained that way. I know when I went to architecture school, we got projects. we just did them ourselves, right? There was no input, there was no consultant, there was no owner, there was no budget. You just did what you thought was best and got criticized for it from one person, but there was no collaboration on producing your work. And again, a lot of us then go forth into our profession and we start to hear these stereotypes about the others on the team, and that is, the contractor, they don't look at the drawings, they're just out for change orders, the architect's drawings stink, they don't care about the budget, they're just out to make it pretty. The owner can't make up their mind, the schedule is ridiculous, the scope and the budget are not aligned. You name it, those are all stereotypes that we have and that we react to in group settings on projects. So that's all bad muscle memory, and I think that all undermines us working together. I think a lot of that divide also is based on this perception of design being a creative enterprise and construction being more of a commodity. That construction is something you just want to buy the biggest bag of it for the cheapest price per pound. And that's just a completely false choice between creativity and commodity. Construction, and obviously this is a receptive audience for this, construction is just as creative as design, and I think the integration of design and construction is the only way that we can bend that curve that you've all seen excuse me, about construction industry productivity being flat, for the last 50 years. You've seen that slide, and I think the only way to inflect that curve up is to collaborate with the design, to essentially integrate that, to go to more of a master builder model. It kind of worked pretty well in the pyramids. Other than the slave labor, I guess that wasn't too good. But so we don't need full MEP drawings that by the design team that are then discarded and turned into fabrication drawings by the mechanical trade contractor. We don't need a structural model by the structural engineer that is then kind of discarded, and a new model by the steel guys is produced. So there's a lot of that waste that we are trying to wring out in our projects. And I think with the commodity mentality, I just want to make clear, I'm not interested in buying our projects for the cheapest price. I can't emphasize that enough. I want to buy our projects to get the best value. It's not the same thing. So how do we arrive at a best value project? I would say right now, qualifications-based design build is a method that we have available to us that, to me, is the most offers the most opportunity for us to work the way I think we need to. And we have limited experience with that, but we know enough now that this is a way where we have examples now where we thought we were going to do a certain kind of project for a certain scope and budget, and that integrated team showed us that you could do that, but that's not the best value project that you could do. And I think, what is it worth to us to be saved from doing the wrong project? That is huge. The project that we ended up doing, could we buy that for less, if we put it out to bid? Maybe. Would we end up with that price? Probably not, at the end of the day. So to me, that's a model that we need to pursue, and that I intend to pursue going forward. The key thing about that integrated team in the design build setting is that not every individual, and owners included, are good at it or even want to do it. Again, there's a lot of that muscle memory that we need to overcome. So part of my job is to figure out how do we fairly evaluate teams for that kind of culture. And again, my honest answer is I don't know. I've seen different ways that people have done workshops. Let's put people in a room for 4 hours and let them work together with us. And to me, it's a little bit of theater as opposed to I'd really learn something. So I'm open to ideas. I'll be seeking lots of people's ideas about how to do this and do it right going forward. So what does this all mean for you if you are a contractor who might be interested in working at the UW? I think the main thing for me is that, and this is, I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but to me the building of the building is not a differentiator anymore between contractors. Everybody can build the building. Some people might do it a little more safely. Some people might do it a little with a better site cleanliness. Maybe their estimating is better, but at the end of the day, we're going to end up with more or less the same building. What we need that does differentiate firms from each other is a partner that can tell us things we don't know about value, things that they know from the private sector that we need to learn from, that we have not been good at emulating so far. We need partners who will work collaboratively, that the rod buster has ideas to contribute to the design. They're not just somebody who's doing a commodity labor effort. That's what we need from our from our partners, and we need design firms and engineers to be willing to maybe do less scope. Again, we don't need full documents for everything. We need enough that the trade contractor can take it from there and go straight to fabrication drawings. And then lastly, we need people who are willing and eager to work this way and work in that kind of setting. And again, I see many times people are not willing, and we try to set up that culture, and you've just got to drag people along. And if we have people who undermine that culture, it's not going to work. And sometimes you have to have that hard conversation and think about replacing people. So this is really just a call to this profession for some level of integrated project delivery. This work is hard. Doing these buildings, designing them is hard. The buildings are complicated machines. We're better together when we work that way. And all of our professions need to embrace that. We're going to be looking for the ones who do. And I hope you'll join me going forward in that kind of project approach, because if we don't do that, it really is just a lot of work. So thank you.